Hi everyone, it's Dilnaya on the BBC Asian Network, and just in case you weren't aware, I'm sure you are, but just in case, let me give you a heads up. There's a lot of fantastic stuff doing the rounds on the station, and a lot of it is about the Pakistan trip that a lot of our presenters went on. Asian Network's been celebrating Pakistan since last week and continues all this week. 2 weeks of specially recorded live music, honest conversation and real flavours of the amazing country. And this afternoon, from 1, actress Sarwat Gilani chats to Noreen about her blockbuster movie, Jawani Phir Nahi. She also speaks about women empowerment and how she juggles motherhood with her career. So please do check it out. Now, for this part of the show, I want to ask you, do we speak openly enough about violence against women and girls? If not, why not? What's stopping us from doing it? My next guest has organised an event to do just that. It's tomorrow at City Hall. There'll be spoken word performances, film screenings and panel discussions. And his name is Mizan the poet. Hi, Mizan.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for joining us. Now,
thank you for having me.
No, it's a great pleasure. I'm a big fan of spoken word, and you're using spoken word to try and challenge and tackle what's a really difficult subject, aren't you?
Yes, like you just introduced me, I'm a spoken word artist, and what I have found is that you can use creativity like spoken word to transfer progressive ideas in a creative way and use that medium to challenge kind of negative ideas in society. So
how is that sort of different? In what ways is it different or more powerful than, say, other ways of doing it, like a political debate or anything like that?
Well, with the debates, with the more lecture style methods, you will find that it's difficult to reach the masses, especially a younger generation who, if you don't mind me saying, because of the technology that we have nowadays, they want messages in a more faster, more kind of simple way. So I found that via the medium of creativity, via poetry, that can be done. So I think it's a bit more easier for the younger generation to digest the information, whereas via delivering it in a lecture or a debate style method, you might not get that kind of response.
And why did you feel particularly strongly about violence against women and girls? It's an important issue, but why did you pick that one in particular?
It's not something that I picked. I think it's, through life, it's something that picked me.
Oh,
so the thing is that it's something that I've had to learn as well myself. I can totally understand why, from a male perspective, why violence against women and girls is not something that a lot of men would talk about. But through my experiences, especially seeing my mum being a housewife, who obviously didn't go through domestic violence, but I saw the kind of mechanisms of, let's just say, unseen control. So, for example, as a housewife, there's certain things that she needed to do, that she wanted to do, but for her to do that, she would need to get my dad's permission, like stuff like go out, money, all these kind of things, right? I kind of grew up with this idea that, when I get married, I will give my wife a lot more freedom, because I did not agree with the way that I saw my mum being treated. But along with that, with my spoken word, I decided to write tracks about important social issues. So someone got in touch with me saying, Mizan, why don't you write a track about honor killing? And this is something, even though I knew about honor killing, the whole getting into the arena of women's rights and gender-based violence is something that was new to me. So I've done a lot of research on honor killing. I watched Dia Khan's documentary called Banaz, which was a tragic case of honor killing, and that inspired me to write the track. And when I wrote the track and I came up with the video, that was my entrance into the field. But I was still a beginner, so what I did was I decided to do a lot of research, do my own reading, listen to the lectures, and via that...
Sorry, Mizan, I was just going to say that can we not mention any cases or anything like that, just in case there's any sort of cases which are active at the moment. But in terms of the issues, do please carry on, yeah?
Yeah, sure. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no case about this, but that's how I got involved in the issue. And then via that, I had to do my own learning and do my own independent learning about gender-based violence, women's rights, and that kind of instilled in me the actual in a natural way to learn more about the issue, and that's how I became known as a male ally for women's rights against gender-based violence. So I totally understand why a lot of men wouldn't want to do it, because I had to do it myself. It's a learned process. But via that, I kind of saw the seriousness of the issue, and it's something that has become very personal to me.
So how does spoken word sort of work in that sort of thing? Because there's obviously a lot of seriousness over, and spoken word can address a lot of very serious issues, can't it?
Yeah.
But how do you go about it? So just talk me through it. Do you sit down and say, okay, this is the subject, this is what I'm going to say, or I need it to be a lot more punchy, a lot more powerful, theatrical? What goes through your mind? And talk me through the creative process in terms of how you put something together in terms of actual poetry.
Okay, wow. Well, the first thing I do is, obviously, if I have the subject matter at hand, so let's just stick to honor killing. The first thing I would do is do a lot of research on the subject, especially if it's a subject that I don't know that much about. So I'll watch the documentaries, I'll go on to Google, for example, I'll read up on a few things, and then once I understand what it's like to be a victim or someone to be affected by it, then I will either do additional research, or if I think I'm in the right emotional place, then I'll start writing. But when I start writing, I already know in terms of the effect, I already know what I want it to have. So I already know, like, for example, what kind of information I would like to be expressed in the poem, and then all it is how you go about doing it. So when it comes to the writing process, I do want the ending to be kind of punchy, and I do want it to be rhythmical as well. I do want it to rhyme. That's what my writing style is. But along with that, I already decide that, I will come up with a video for it, and it's a video that people can use as part of their workshops, as part of their training packages in regards to challenging the issue. So that's kind of the broad framework of how I work.
It is quite interesting, isn't it? That whole sort of process, and then when you come out with something, does it need to be a lot more punchy, really in your face, to make people stand up and pay attention, or is it more subtle to sort of like show the pain that it causes, or? Well, you always, when you say you don't do subtle, almost like shocking people into sort of like waking up to this problem.
Yeah, I don't like. For me, it's not about getting the attention or the shock treatment. I don't do subtlety. So the thing is, my way of dealing with an issue is try my best to deal with it head on and call it out for what it is. So in my spoken word poem about honor killing called Death Before Dishonor, which is on YouTube, right? I don't hold back in calling it murder. I call it in the track. It's murder, basically. So I don't do that for shock treatment or to get the attention. I want to do my best to challenge the issue as much as I can. And in the 3 minutes that I have, I try and dissect the idea behind it, why it happens, but what it is. And it's not because of any other reason apart from the fact that that's just the way I am. So for me, I like to go on it head on. And people that know my spoken word know me as the person that doesn't hold back, basically.
Now, is there any way that, I could ask you to sort of give us a taste of a flavour of what you're talking about? Some of your poetry on this?
Do you want me to say a few lines?
Yes, please, yeah. That would be great.
Okay, so this is taken from the track called Death Before Dishonor, and this is how it starts. Okay, Bismillah. In this case, there's no honor in being violent. No honor in unleashing feelings that refuse to stay silent. There's nothing worse than leaving your daughter more than frightened, but still, some would go beyond those limits. To protect the family name, they're more than rigid. Sacrilege must remain dead and buried, and so it does under her name in the cemetery. Since she didn't heed his lecture, she wanted another guy, but he didn't let her. Forbidden love didn't create the rift. What did was death before dishonor. Instead of a happiness, what he had in mind was torture. just wanted to make her scream, led to the shock of raising a murdered teen because for a split second he forgot what being a father means. I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I have to say, I'm a bit biased because I love spoken word, and I think the stuff that people like you do is amazing. And
Thank you so much.
that's quite powerful. What response do you get? Have you performed that already? I know you said it's on YouTube, but have you performed it live?
Yeah, I've performed it live in any event that I get invited to. That is something that I choose to perform just to create awareness about it. But also, because of the spoken word tracks, I've been invited to charitable events by police on the issue, and they've specifically requested this.
And what sort of response do you get? What do people sort of say? Wow, do they? Or do they say, "I never thought of that"? Or
so in the events related to the issue, a lot of people were like, you know what, we've never heard this in a spoken word format, so it's nice that I've done it. But you know what's interesting is that when I came up with the video, again, I'm gonna stick to general stuff here. A lot of survivors and a lot of people affected by the issue got in touch, and
really,
and hearing it firsthand from their perspective, kind of made me, I'm kind of not in a prideful way, but it made me happy that I wrote a track like this because I was able to give a voice to their kind of voicelessness, right? So there was one particular person that, got in touch saying that they had to meet their father who had killed their sister. And I did not know what to say about that. That was such a profound message.
That's quite shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of things like that kind of, give me the strength to carry on doing what I'm doing. But the response is generally positive, and the fact that this track came from a Bengali Muslim male is something that is another profound thing, because I've had a lot of females, especially Muslim females from my community, saying that, seeing a Muslim male of Bengali origin do this is something that is empowering, because not enough Asian males are involved in the issue.
It is quite incredible, the sort of reaction that you're saying that you do get, and the dialogue that sort of flows from that. Do you feel a sense of responsibility because people are telling you presumably stuff that they haven't told anybody else?
Yeah, I do. I see spoken word poetry and creativity as a gift given to me by, obviously, a higher power. I believe in God. So the thing is, I believe that in terms of my gifts that I've been given, I am to use them responsibly. And the thing is, I've had people come up to me and say, look, Mizan, your stuff is too serious. Just to get that mainstream attention, why don't you write about more fun things, have a joke, what you do as recreational activities. And the thing is that although I can do that, I choose not to, because I feel as though it is my responsibility to be the voice of the voiceless. But not just because of that, but because I see life as something that is precious, but I want to use my time and my creativity to make a better world. And therefore, I see my gift as something that I can use to do that. So for me, it is a responsibility, but it's something that I've imposed on myself.
I want to talk a bit more about the issue of the violence and some of your work, but I just want to very quickly touch upon where did this love of poetry come from? Was it something that at school, or it was something that you wanted to develop yourself? How did that come about?
It's something that was developed. This is a bit of a story. So it's not something that came from school. In fact, from school, learning traditional poetry was something I found very boring.
Yeah, which is such a shame, isn't it? Because a lot of kids could get turned on to poetry if they found the right way to do it with kids, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it is. That is the thing that is shameful about it. Because language and the use of language is something that is very powerful and it's very potent. However, the way it's taught to us in school, learning traditional poetry and stuff like that, is very, very boring. And it's not something that, the way it's taught to us, it's not something that can make us see what we can get out of it. So it's poetry for me was something that was, I switched off from it from a very young age. However, how I got involved in it was actually being exposed to, let's just say, London's urban Muslim spoken word poetry and rap scene itself. So I know a lot of Muslim artists who I befriended over a decade ago who were involved in this scene, and they were writing lyrics, they were coming up with music, they were coming with poetry, and it was very powerful.
And was there a bit of an overlap with rap as well and stuff like that?
Yeah, and the reason why that was is because a lot of Muslim rappers did not want to be involved in the music industry. So they were looking for an alternative platform to perform some of their tracks. And then it was via them that we saw the birth of this Muslim spoken word / a rap scene. And I intended some of those just to kind of, for identity seeking purposes, right? I intended a lot of these kind of things. And then I was inspired by the lyrics that I was hearing. And by the rappers that I met and befriended, they introduced me to the urban spoken word scene. And then when I saw the lyricism of people like Amir Suleiman and other people, I was in awe. And they inspired me because I wanted to use creativity and let's just say poetry to make this world a better place and create awareness about issues, and they were doing that. And via that, I developed a love for spoken word poetry.
So what happened? What was the next step? You sort of like, right, okay, this is something I got to do. Did you end up sort of like reading poetry books after that, or just listening to a lot of stuff on, watching stuff on YouTube and sort of like soaking up the rhythm, the patterns, the words, and
So what I did was, again, listen to a lot of my favorite poets, like people like Amir Suleiman and other people, and via that, obviously, attend any courses. So a lot of these artists were like, they were doing workshops on creative writing. So I attended a few of those, and via listening and just surrounding myself in the culture, I started writing my own. So the thing is, I started writing, but then the next step is to perform them, right? So that's a whole nother step. So, while I was writing, I was reciting the poems to my friends, to my family, and all those kind of things. And they kind of gave me the kind of courage to take it a step further, because they were telling me that, look, my poetry is good, it's very good, you can improve, but, keep on going, because it's actually very good. So the next step after writing it is to actually reciting it, in events, which is what I did. But then the next step from that is to actually recite it from memory. And that took a long time, because you have to memorize your poems. And again, like, that's a whole new craft in itself.
Yeah.
But
and then when you're speaking, it's sort of like, remember where you've got to emphasize what and when and all of that, because it's a bit of drama as well, isn't it?
A bit of drama, but from what I know, people, especially from spoken word artists, they recite their stuff differently. I mean, I think for me, what's made it easy is just to be myself on stage. So I don't have to pretend to be anyone I'm not. I'm not a good actor. A lot of people will tell you I don't do dramatic stuff very well. So, I'm just being myself on stage. But what I found is that people really are in tune with what I'm saying. So I make sure I'm emphasizing on the feeling and the spirit of the poem, rather than what I actually say.
Now, I don't mean this to sound rude in any way, and I hope nobody gets offended. But poetry is often seen as a posh person's sort of art form, isn't it? But actually, there's a lot of sort of like, if I can put it this way, urban, sort of like scene is full of young people who aren't posh, who love the power of the spoken word, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, because rap is poetry. So rap stands for rhythm and poetry. So if you look at artists like Tupac, for example, Tupac was a profound and gifted poet. He delivered it in rap, because all rap is to deliver poetry over a beat. That's all it is. So poetry, when you're talking about poetry, you're talking about different types of poetry. But to think of one specific type of poetry as the only thing, which is what you're referring to here, is not the case, because urban poetry, rap, is also a form of poetry. So the thing is that all that's happened is that a lot of young people who are gifted lyrically and are rappers, you turned to spoken word as an art form to kind of create more awareness about what they are doing, because they are not getting the same type of attention from the mainstream. So the thing is that, for me, as far as I can see it, that's how it kind of developed further.
Okay, Mizan, very, very quickly, because we're about to wrap up soon. So you've got your event at City Hall, which is right in the centre of London tomorrow. What would you want to come out of that?
Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to say this. This was my idea to actually work with City Hall and develop this kind of event. I'm one of the organisers of the event. I'm the one that approached them with the idea and with the format and everything, right? The reason why I did this is because I'm a proud Londoner, and I want London to lead the way in this issue in regards to campaigning against gender-based violence and be for women's rights. So the thing is, in the event, like you mentioned before, it consists of spoken word, film screenings, and panel discussions. The film screening will be the Our Girl film, and the panel discussions will discuss the causes of violence against women and the solutions to violence against women. I want people to leave empowered. I want London to be empowered, to take the steps further to challenge violence against women and girls. And I guess the message that I want is, what are the ways, what are the solutions towards violence against women, and what can we do to implement those solutions on a worldwide scale to ensure that no one suffers because of gender-based violence? I guess that's what I'm trying to achieve via this event.
And what's the vibe? We've only got about 15 seconds to go before we have some music, but what's the vibe overall? You're heading in that direction? Is it positive?
It's heading in that direction. It's very positive. And you know what? I want a lot more people involved. So if anyone's hearing this, they want to get more involved, please get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook, on YouTube. If you type in Mizan the Poet, I'm on Twitter as well. So
Brilliant.
Please get in touch.
Good luck tomorrow, and keep in touch with us and let us know how you're getting on.